This pandemic has torpedoed every other economic program that was set on the basis of a non-COVID environment.
Yes, you say all things being equal, but
so we must really reimagine. And those of you who are in charge of government, there is a sense in which we must also sympathize, because we still expect the same results as if COVID did not happen. But I look at just the airport environment when one travels now.
Yes.
All the shops in the airport gone, which means that the chain that supported the businesses are impacted negatively.
That's right.
What then and how then can we recapture that so that a multi-billion industry, which is the aviation industry, coupled with the advertisement industry, coupled with food, coupled with all other things, in reimagining Africa and our countries, how are we going to attack that area? It requires a very innovative thinking.
You're right, Prof. And you know, you just take the tourism industry, because a lot of the travel, you know, had to do with business, tourism, you know, that gave countries support. And we were, and still are, wanting to improve our tourism industry in this country. But you have such countries like where you come from, Kenya, where you would have 2 million visitors.
Absolutely, easily.
And then turn to 800.
Yes.
Just look at...
Even less.
Even less. So just look at what has been lost.
Yes.
That impacts an economy, not in a small way.
Yeah.
Here, of course, I have been in office about 10 months now. But you talk about expectations?
Yes.
Oh, they're way up here.
Yeah.
And then you say, how do we do this? We promise young people jobs.
Yes.
But companies are closing.
Yes. People
are being laid off. It's something that every one of us has to soberly consider and says, let's imagine something more. And I'm encouraged by the young people.
Yes.
Their innovative spirit. Despite this, they are creating solutions that, even within the COVID context, gives you hope that they can create jobs, they can you know, create answers. The innovation that students in university, but you would be surprised, even those on the street. They could be dropouts, but I'm telling you, they got something up here.
Absolutely.
So I think we'll be more, you know, listening more, not necessarily to the economic, in quote, experts, end of quote, but to those who are seeking daily answers. And then say, if you found a solution here, maybe we can share that solution with the rest. And then more have hope for a future that says, hey, we cannot be defeated by a plague of this magnitude, however big it is. I think humanity has more within itself than that which can destroy it outside there.
You know, Your Excellency, I was thinking, I'm informed that you'll assume the chair of SADC. and to me, going forward, it is the bigger markets that are going to be the game changers. In terms of, if you look at SADC, easily anything up to 200 million. So that one of the things that I think, and I hope that during your tenure, this is one of the things you'll focus on. If you allow labor to move freely, then it has a catalytic effect on innovation. on very primary things. And one of the things that comes to mind is agriculture, because the single thing that we must do is to continue eating, regardless.
That's right.
And I was saying that if the saying is true that the fish rots from the head, it must also be true that it freshens from the head. And if that be true, therefore, one of the things that we must, you particularly in your privileged and honored position, is to see how we could move labor. I've had a young person yesterday wanted to travel from Johannesburg to Windhoek. He couldn't, because of the typical protocols.
Right.
But if you could, of course, appreciating the protocols that are now necessitated by COVID, ensure that young people can move, we re-examine the work permit environment, you will be amazed at how what appears to have been lost can be regained by having a totally different approach. And the same can also be done in the context of East Africa, ECOWAS, Central Africa, and ultimately the Africa Continental Free Trade Area.
Right.
And if we did that in the next 5 years, the jobs lost in one sector will be gained in another sector.
Absolutely. You know, it's a privilege for me actually to be taking over the chairmanship of SADC in August, the Lord willing, this year. But you're right. In terms of trade, we have protocols that have been in place and sometimes have not been truly used to optimize people's profits as we have tried to work together. We will need to intentionally make sure that even the exchange of labor is not just on the unskilled level. It is on a level that says people can freely move and be accepted. We are sometimes more willing to give temporary employment permits to what we call expats, and they are not those that look like ourselves. But we have plenty. In Southern Africa, for example, we've always had labor move around. But it must be on a level that nobody suspects every other one when movements of people like this take place. And usually it is because of political issues. If we look at our people as one, and Africa as one, and nations that are there as, you know, one nation, like a chain in a link, every strong nation will make the African chain stronger. And so the trade agreements, bilateral and sometimes multilateral, and what Africa, Continental Free Trade Area, will signify, it's not just protocols on paper. We must have, even like now, we are creating what we call one-stop border posts. Somebody says, let's call them one go border posts. So people don't talk about stopping, but they talk about how freely it is we're enabled to go. And trade amongst ourselves, create more jobs amongst ourselves in the area of agriculture, like you have rightly mentioned, because food is the biggest business. And people shouldn't look at it as just a mere cause for subsistence. It is the biggest business, and we will always need it. And so Africa has so much arable land that we can not only just feed ourselves as Africans, we can feed the rest of the world. And then look at the whole issue that COVID-19 has kind of exposed in the area of pharmaceuticals and medicine development. Why are we looking to others to be the ones that supply, you know, vaccines.
Yes.
And our leaders on the continent have now begun to say, no, let's encourage our young people and our researchers to do what we can do for ourselves as Africa.
In fact, Your Excellency, there's something that I think is very critical. You remember in the early days, the people of Madagascar came up with COVID organic.
That's right.
And I thought the Malagasy Institute of Applied Science. And one of the areas in which Africa does not do very well is to invest in research and development. So that many of our universities have become glorified high schools. It's chalk and board.
Yeah.
You don't have money for academics to engage in serious research.
Right.
And I think with the anchorage of South Africa, which technologically is above the parapet in this region.
Right.
One of the things, and I hope that they'll provide leadership in this regard, is to then marshal Africa, because I saw there is South Africa, Egypt, and Morocco, and Senegal, the Louis Pasteur Institute, that now have the capacity to catalyze the process of vaccine development.
Right.
And if Cuba can do it, Your Excellency.
You know, and look at its size. You know, so it's not necessarily, you know,
it's not the size
how
of
big
the
you are or how small you are,
Yeah.
but how big your heart is toward finding solutions that will be of benefit to humanity.
Yeah.
And we can do that.
Some of us, particularly with the young people that we work with across the continent, in little ways, to make the ocean will be the little bubble, to make the forest the little tree, so that we can help to contribute to that agenda.
Yeah, I think in terms of principles that you can abide by, the high five would be, you know, servant leadership, uniting a nation, making sure everyone prospers, and making sure that we fight vices such as corruption, and then follow the rule of law. You always have to tweak the application of this same.
Yes.
When we spoke about these things, it was in a non-COVID context.
Yes.
And all of a sudden, COVID hit us. But this is, I think, an area in which now you can demonstrate what being a servant really means.
Yes.
Or how multilateralism, which is creating synergy amongst different partners, really means to be united to conquer an enemy that is threatening all of us. And then how important it is to make sure that even within that context, everyone benefits and continues to grow.
Yes.
And prosper. But like it has been demonstrated, and I have had to deal with this, and we're still dealing with it, and it is painful. COVID-19 funds have been abused.
Yes.
But you have to deal with this, because it's an opportunity now to say, let's do what is right. And not just restrict it to a COVID fund.
Yes.
What about the other funds? What about all of the infrastructural developmental funds that were meant to benefit people and have been abused and used by a few? What about all of the areas in which Africa, if truly following the path of integrity, Africa would be where, you know, everybody would be saying, let's look up to Africa for the world's solutions. And we happen to be at the very bottom, despite all of the resources we have and all of the brilliant minds that we have. These young people are teaching me something, Prof, that gives me hope. That, you know, following principles, following values, following something that will give your life meaning, you could still change a nation, and you can still change a continent.
Your Excellency will, no doubt, have seen your administration you took very drastic action, and known or unknown to you, you may not believe it. It has energized Africa in a very unique way. Because as you rightly said, the funds that were meant to be deployed for COVID or in the fight against COVID have been embezzled across the continent. And what people have been waiting for is resolute action. And what we have seen, and I've read the newspapers today, is that people are being called to account. And I think that is what Africa needs. And it ought not to be restricted to COVID, as you said. You've got to look at different areas. And if we were to deal with wastage and outright theft, a friend of mine calls it, he says it is not corruption, is theft on an industrial scale. And if you are to tame it, and one of the things that I think is very critical in the fight against corruption is lifestyle audits.
Yes.
To ensure if you earn 100,000 kwacha, really there is a limit to what you can do. If you are doing things that are monumentally beyond those, then even the law and those who are administering law must now change, that we might think that you are guilty until you are proven innocent in these very unique circumstances. And I think that what has happened in the action taken by your administration is to create a momentum on whose crest a lot can be done going forward, because that money would then go into health, it would go into agriculture,
and
it would go into education, in infrastructure, and liberate us from foreign debt. Yeah, foreign debt. We borrow because we steal. Sometimes we have stolen and stashed in different countries. If we could keep it in the domestic arena. So I think that you have a duty, an obligation, which is entrusted to you by the people of Malawi and of course progressively now the people of Africa, to be the arrow's head, in a manner of speaking, in carrying this crusade. My experience is that you make many enemies in this war, but yet it becomes necessary at times, because those enemies thus created, when they are alone and they inspect their hearts and minds, they know that the right thing was done.
That's true, and it is a humbling duty, but one has to face it. And as a servant, you don't even expect to be thanked for it, because you have just done what your duty demanded. Somebody, coined a phrase here years ago that what is happening seems like, government has become a criminal enterprise.
Yes.
And research has shown over the years that even with outside budgetary support, and what you see being looted, it's about 1/3 of the budget a country like Malawi needs. And so if you didn't steal, if you didn't misappropriate funds, then you didn't need outside budgetary support, because that would make up for it. And so, these are things that sometimes we talk about, but we don't act on. For example, we do have legislation that should lead everyone into following up on the audits, personal lifestyle audits. And sometimes you just wonder why we don't pursue that route. Of course, our system here is like based on the old British system, where everyone is innocent until proven guilty. So you still have to respect that.
Which is
true. But I tell you what, I think with a resolute mind and whatever they call political will, we can get to a place where resources are truly used for the common good or public interest rather than personal interest.
Your Excellency, political will is actually the game changer. an anti-corruption authority can do all it wants, the judiciary can do what it wants, everybody else, but where there is political will, that energizes a country in a totally different way. And of course, as you rightly said, people will be presumed innocent until they are proven guilty. But if these agencies are reasonably well resourced, it improves the quality of investigation.
That's right.
Improves the quality of prosecution. The judiciary is properly resourced, and you will be amazed. I once said when in my earlier days that if you jail a high-ranking public official, it is more than public education for 10 years, because it sends a very strong message that there are no sacred cows. And I think that that is what Africa needs. And if that happens and is replicated, then we would save anything in the neighborhood of even $1 trillion United States dollars within the continent. And you can imagine what then it does to all critical sectors in African economies.
And when you talk about the whole of Africa as a continent, monies that flow out of Africa are actually much more than monies that come in terms of developmental aid or assistance. And so that tells you something. Africa is so rich that if Africa together would say, folks, let's determine our own future. Let's have our own vision. And like it is being demonstrated even now in terms of trade. If we do that, then nobody outside us will be determining what we need. If they want to help, they will assist alongside what we have said. Not in terms of laying conditions that, you know, Africa, if you want to prosper, advance, or industrialize, this is what you've got to follow. We will be determining what Africa needs. And I believe that, you know, the dreams of our forebears were not in vain. We need a generation that rises up and says, let Africa take charge.
And you know, Your Excellency, another area that that ought to receive attention is the area of innovation and invention in all its permutations, because these young people at the universities are capable of intervening in different areas. Take the area of agriculture. Everybody now knows that rain-fed agriculture is not the way to go.
That's true.
The question is, how are we enabling our young men and women at our universities of agriculture? What about the arts? I was just thinking the arts.
It's big business.
Big business. Football is big business. Music is big business. Cinema is big business in the billions.
That's right.
And I believe that these are the unique areas now which Your Excellency would use your privileged position both as the President of the Republic of Malawi and when you assume the chair of SADC to articulate and make Malawi, the warm heart of Africa, be a place that welcomes us, so that some of us who believe that Malawi is not landlocked, it is land-linked.
That's right. That's right.
Can now come here.
It could become the hub of the kind of innovation and creativity that young people can champion. And because I have known a little bit about the mentorship program that you champion across the continent. And I want you to know that you are free to come to Malawi and make it the hub where you can operate and challenge these young people across the continent to say, let's find our own solutions and we will rely on your brains. Or to use a phrase that I heard from Dr. Adesina, you know, he says, this is white matter infrastructure development. You know? so the brain must be exercised in a way that is beyond what people expect. And these young people, not only do they think outside the box, I think they have thrown out the box.
Yeah.
And they just said, just think.
Perhaps you don't need the box.
That's right. You don't need the limit.
Yeah, because the box limits you.
Yeah.
And as a student of philosophy, you know, the René Descartes, cogito ergo sum.
That's right.
I think, so I am. And Your Excellency, I think part of the frustration, particularly of young Africans, is that they are not enabled. Sometimes it is perception.
Right.
But I think that deliberate effort must be made now, because this is a very young continent, and
That's
I believe that that is also true of the Republic of Malawi. The average age possibly is 18.
It's young people.
And if we don't take care of them, what we think will be a youth dividend could be a youth crisis.
Yeah.
And fortune favors the vigilant. We've got to be vigilant now and deliberately go out there and root for young people. And under our mentorship program, that is exactly what we intend to do. And I'm very pleased that you are giving us the opportunity in Malawi to come and work with young people here. And come we will.
Thank you.
Come we will. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think we just need, for those of us who had been given a chance when we were young.
Yes.
And now we act like, you know, we can't return that favor. It's wrong. I think we will need to create the kind of environment that frees these young people to become better than their best.
There's a phrase that I heard from Jesse Jackson in the United States, that if don't look at a person who is down unless you want to raise him up.
There you go.
I thought that that was very powerful.
There you go.
Yes.
Because many times as politicians, we have wanted our people hungry, we have wanted our people ignorant and poor, so we can manipulate them.
Yes.
With the vicious cycle of election after election. And I said, I don't subscribe to this kind of belief and you know, system. Let the people have what it takes. Let the people be conscientized to where when they make a decision, it is an informed decision.
Correct.
And let the young people lead a new generation. I call it a new breed that has no greed.
Yes.
And transform the face of Africa. But it needs to start with me and with us in this country and each country. And I have hope that what you are investing in, in making sure that the next generation has a worldview different from the present one, I think we will have Africa transformed.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency.
Thank you.
God